The Council's ultimatum. The first sign of the invasion came not with explosions or dramatic warnings, but with silence. Across the globe, all communications suddenly ceased for precisely 8 seconds. When they returned, the skies above every major city on Earth were filled with massive ships. Perfect geometric shapes, hovering in formations so precise they seemed artificial. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the roof of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters in Geneva, watching the enormous vessels through her binoculars. Unlike the chaotic scramble happening inside the building, she maintained her composure, studying the perfect hexagonal pattern of the ships. They're arranged like a crystal lattice, she murmured to Colonel Marcus Chen, who stood beside her. No random positioning at all. Perfect order, Chen agreed, his voice tight. Military precision beyond anything we've achieved. The largest ship, a perfect sphere that gleamed like polished obsidian, hovered directly above the UEDF headquarters. As they watched, a beam of light shot from the vessel to the ground 20 meters in front of them, and a figure materialized. The alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, with iridescent blue skin that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. Its body was perfectly symmetrical, with 4 arms arranged in precise angles and a head that housed 3 pairs of golden eyes in a vertical line. "I am High Commander Vexilius of the Galactic Council," the alien announced, its voice resonating with mathematical precision. "Your planet has been scheduled for integration." Reyes stepped forward, her uniform crisp despite the chaos around them. "I am Commander Elena Reyes of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact, but we are not familiar with this integration concept." All 6 of the alien's eyes blinked in perfect synchronization. Integration is not a concept open to interpretation. The Council has observed your species for 3 of your centuries. You have reached the technological threshold that requires supervision. You will join the Council as a Category 3 civilization, under our guidance. "And if we prefer independence?" Chen asked, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. "Resistance is mathematically futile," Vexilius stated. "The Council has integrated 812 species. None have successfully resisted. Your weapons cannot harm our vessels. Your strategies are predictable. Your technology is primitive." The alien raised one hand, and a holographic display appeared between them, showing Earth surrounded by thousands of Council ships. "The Council offers a choice of efficiency. Accept integration willingly, and your species will be preserved. Resist, and we will be forced to minimize variables by reducing your population to a manageable level." Reyes maintained her diplomatic expression. "How long do we have to consider this offer?" "The Council values precision. You have exactly 72 hours. We will demonstrate our capabilities to assist your decision-making process." With that, the alien disappeared, leaving Reyes and Chen staring at the empty space where it had stood. "Get me a secure line to Admiral Nakamura," Reyes ordered, her eyes never leaving the ships above, "and inform the Security Council that we're initiating Protocol Omega." 3 hours later, in a bunker 2 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, the leaders of Earth's major nations gathered around a conference table. The mood was grim as they watched footage of the Council's demonstration. A Council ship had positioned itself over an uninhabited island in the Pacific. From its underside, a perfect beam of blue light shot downward in an absolutely straight line. Where it touched the island, matter simply ceased to exist, not exploded, not vaporized, but removed from reality with surgical precision. The beam cut through the island like a mathematician's line through a plane, leaving a perfectly smooth surface behind. "They call it a linear cannon," Admiral Nakamura explained, pausing the footage. "According to the data we've gathered, it seems to delete matter at the quantum level, following absolute linear paths. No curvature, no scatter, no deviation." "Can our defenses stop it?" asked the President of the African Union. Nakamura shook his head. "Not directly. Our shields, our armor, they're designed to disperse energy. This weapon doesn't disperse. It follows a perfect straight line, erasing everything in its path. Then we surrender, the European Chancellor said, her voice hollow. We cannot fight this. Actually, Rise interjected, standing up from her seat at the end of the table. Their weakness is their strength. All eyes turned to her. I've reviewed all the data from our observations. The Council's technology, their tactics, their ships. Everything they do follows perfect mathematical patterns. They move in straight lines and perfect curves. Their formations never deviate from geometric precision. She activated the room's holographic system, displaying the Council ship's movements over the past 3 hours. Look at their patrol patterns. Perfect hexagons. Their communication bursts, exactly timed intervals. Even their weapon. It can only fire in a straight line. They're so advanced, they've forgotten how to be unpredictable. What are you suggesting, Commander? Nakamura asked, leaning forward. Rise met his gaze. I'm suggesting we show them Project Nebula. A murmur ran through the room. Project Nebula had been Earth's best-kept secret for nearly a decade, a revolutionary approach to spaceflight and combat that had been deemed too unreliable, too chaotic for practical use. The VSS paradox isn't ready, the Chinese premier objected. The last test flight nearly tore the ship apart. That's exactly why it will work, Rise countered. The Council's entire civilization is built on predictability and order. They expect us to either surrender or fight conventionally. The paradox doesn't do either. Admiral Nakamura rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The randomized quantum engines, the probability weapons, the adaptive hull, all the things our engineers considered flaws, are exactly what the Council won't expect. Rise finished. They fire straight. We'll show them what chaos can do. After hours of debate, the vote was unanimous. Earth would appear to negotiate while preparing its unconventional response. The next day, Reyes and Chen found themselves aboard the Council's command ship, escorted by tall, silent guards through corridors that formed perfect right angles at every turn. The ship's interior was a testament to mathematical precision, not a single asymmetrical element in sight. They were led to a vast chamber where representatives of various Council species sat in a perfect circle. High Commander Vexilius stood at the center. Commander Reyes, Colonel Chen, the alien acknowledge. The Council has agreed to demonstrate our full capabilities, so you may accurately convey to your leaders the futility of resistance. A massive screen activated, showing a barren asteroid field in a distant system. 3 Council ships moved into precise triangular formation, and energy began to build between them, forming a web of light. The trilinear cannon, Vexilius announced with evident pride. The pinnacle of Council military technology. The energy coalesced and fired as a perfect beam of blinding blue light, traveling in an absolutely straight line across space. When it struck an asteroid, the massive rock didn't explode. A perfect cylindrical section simply vanished, leaving a hole with mathematically perfect edges. The linear cannon doesn't destroy, Vexilius explained. It removes matter from existence by severing the quantum bonds between particles. No debris, no radiation, no aftermath. Only perfect excision. Reyes kept her expression neutral. Impressive. Earth has nothing comparable. Of course not, Vexilius replied. Your species still relies on explosive propellants and crude ballistics. You have barely mastered basic orbital technology. How is the targeting system calibrated? Chen asked, his engineer's curiosity seemingly genuine. Vexilius seemed pleased by the question. The linear cannon fires in a perfect straight line. Once the 3 ships establish the firing solution, it cannot be altered. This is why precise positioning and mathematical calculation are the foundation of Council military doctrine. And if the target moves? Rise asked innocently. Several Council members made sounds that might have been laughter. In space warfare, Vexilius explained condescendingly, true technological superiority removes the need for unpredictability. Our targeting computers can calculate an object's movement with perfect accuracy, allowing us to position our forces where the target will be, not where it is. Fascinating, Reyes said, mentally cataloging every tactical weakness this revealed. Your approach is certainly different from Earth's military history. Different? No, Commander. Superior. Your species still relies on chaotic tactics and wasteful explosives because you lack the ability to achieve perfection. The demonstration continued, with Council ships performing increasingly complex maneuvers, always in perfect geometric patterns. They carved asteroids into perfect cubes and spheres with their energy weapons, displaying surgical precision that was both impressive and terrifying. During a break, Reyes and Chen were escorted to an observation deck overlooking the fleet. "They're showing off," Chen whispered. Reyes nodded slightly, "and telling us exactly how they fight. Notice how every ship moves in predictable patterns, how their formations never adapt, how their weapons only fire in straight lines. They've never faced an enemy that survived long enough to require adaptation," Chen replied. "Their weakness is their rigidity." When they returned to Earth, they were immediately escorted to the underground facility where Project Nebula had been hidden for years. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, engineers and scientists worked frantically to prepare humanity's secret weapon. The VSS Paradox looked nothing like the sleek, geometric perfection of Council ships. Its hull was asymmetrical, covered in seemingly random protrusions and curves. Parts of it appeared to shift and change even as they watched. "She doesn't look like much," Chen commented as they observed from a platform above the hangar. "That's the point." Reyes smiled. The Council would look at her and see a primitive cobbled-together mess. They wouldn't understand what they're seeing. Dr. Imani Okafor, the project's lead scientist, approached them. Despite having worked for 72 hours straight, her eyes sparkled with excitement. "The quantum foam drive is functioning beyond expectations," she reported. "The paradox can move in ways that should be physically impossible." "Explain it to Colonel Chen," Reyes said. "He needs to understand what makes the paradox different." Okafor gestured toward the strange vessel. "The Council's ships use conventional propulsion, advanced, but fundamentally predictable. The paradox doesn't move through space in the traditional sense. The quantum foam drive creates localized fluctuations in spacetime itself." "In simple terms?" Chen asked. "The ship doesn't move through space. Space moves around it. The paradox can appear to change direction instantly because it's not actually turning. Reality is bending." Chen studied the vessel. "And the weapons?" "Just as unconventional." Okafor's face lit up with pride. "The Council uses weapons that fire in straight lines. Ours are designed to be unpredictable." She pointed to bulbous protrusions along the ship's hull. "These are probability cannons. They don't fire a single beam but thousands of energy particles that interfere with each other, creating unpredictable attack patterns." "How do we aim?" Chen frowned. "We don't, exactly," Okafor admitted. "The targeting system uses quantum uncertainty principles. The weapons officer selects a target zone rather than a precise point." Reyes stepped in. "It's like the difference between a sniper rifle and a shotgun, Colonel. The Council are perfect snipers, but they've never faced someone who changes the rules of the game." As the final hours of the Council's deadline approached, the crew of the Paradox prepared for their mission. The 20 men and women represented Earth's finest, not chosen for their discipline or precision, but for their creativity and adaptability. "The Council expects surrender," Reyes told them during the final briefing. "Instead, they'll get their first taste of human chaos." Part 2. Humanity's response. The Council's deadline arrived with mathematical precision. At exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum, the massive alien fleet began moving into attack formation above Earth's atmosphere. Their ships arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns, hexagons within hexagons, creating a three-dimensional lattice of destructive power. In the command center beneath Antarctica, Commander Rice watched the display with calculated calm. Around her, the world's military leaders stood in tense silence as the Council's formation solidified. They're positioning for maximum coverage. Admiral Nakamura observed. Their patterns suggest they'll target major population centers first. As expected, Rice nodded. They're following standard conquest protocols. Eliminate leadership and infrastructure, then offer the survivors a chance to surrender. The communications officer spoke up. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship. On screen, Rice ordered. High Commander Vexilius appeared, his 6 golden eyes arranged in perfect vertical symmetry. Your deadline has expired, Commander Rice. What is Earth's response? Rice stepped forward. We wish to present our answer in person. We request permission to approach your vessel with a diplomatic ship. All 6 of Vexilius's eyes blinked simultaneously. Permission granted. Be advised that any deviation from standard approach vectors will be interpreted as hostile intent. As the transmission ended, Rice turned to her assembled team. Begin Operation Chaos. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, massive doors slid open, revealing a launch tunnel that stretched upward through the ice sheet. The VSS Paradox sat on its launch platform, its strange, asymmetrical hull seeming to shift and waver as if it couldn't quite decide on its final form. Inside the ship's unconventional bridge, Captain Maya Takahashi settled into the command chair. Unlike the rigid, geometric design of Council vessels, the Paradox's bridge was arranged in a seemingly random pattern, with workstations positioned based on neural efficiency rather than visual symmetry. All systems operational, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the ship's chief engineer. Quantum foam drive at 78% coherence. Probability cannons primed. Added Lieutenant Park from weapons control. Uncertainty field generators on standby. Takahashi opened a channel to the command center. Commander Rice, the Paradox is ready for launch. Proceed, Captain, Rice replied. Remember, your mission isn't to attack first. Let them scan you. Let them see what they're dealing with, and wait for their reaction. The Council has never faced a species that didn't either surrender or fight conventionally. Understood, Takahashi acknowledged. We'll show them what humanity brings to the galactic table. The launch sequence initiated, and the Paradox rose silently from its hidden base. Unlike conventional ships that used thrusters or engines, the Paradox simply ceased to be in one location and partially existed in another, its movement defying normal physics. As the strange vessel climbed through Earth's atmosphere, Council ships detected its ascent and adjusted their positions, moving into their standard defense formation, a perfect dodecahedron surrounding the trajectory of the approaching vessel. They're tracking us, reported Lieutenant Commander Wei from the sensor station. Their communications indicate confusion. They can't identify our propulsion system. Takahashi allowed herself a small smile. Good. Let's keep them guessing. The Paradox approached the Council flagship at a measured pace. On the Council's command deck, Vexilius and his subordinates watched the approaching vessel with growing concern. What manner of ship is this? Demanded Sub-Commander Traz, Vexilius's second-in-command. It matches no known configuration. Its hull composition is fluctuating, and we cannot detect its propulsion system. A primitive attempt at stealth technology. Vexilius dismissed, though uncertainty tinged his voice. Scan it again. Aboard the Paradox, Takahashi received a transmission request from the flagship. On screen, she ordered. Vexilius appeared, his expression a mixture of confusion and disdain. Captain, this is not a diplomatic vessel. It is today, Takahashi replied calmly. High Commander, I present the VSS Paradox, Earth's first true starship. Vexilius studied the strange vessel on his scanners. This contraption is what you present to the Council. It appears barely capable of spaceflight. Appearances can be deceiving, Takahashi said. We request permission to demonstrate the Paradox's capabilities before we continue diplomatic discussions. Vexilius and Traz conferred briefly before the High Commander turned back to the screen. Very well. You may demonstrate your vessel's capabilities in the designated testing zone. But be warned, any approach toward Council ships will be considered hostile action. As the transmission ended, Takahashi turned to her crew. They're underestimating us. Exactly as we hoped. Now let's show the Galactic Council what happens when humans decide to get creative. The Paradox moved toward the testing zone, its strange hull seeming to shift and blur as it traveled. Behind it, Council ships maintained their perfect formation, ready to fire their linear cannons at the first sign of threat. Let's start with something simple, Takahashi ordered. Navigation. Execute pattern alpha. The helmsman, Lieutenant Rodriguez, tapped her controls, and the Paradox began to move. Unlike the straight lines and perfect arcs of Council ships, the Paradox's path seemed random, almost erratic. It accelerated suddenly, then stopped in ways that defied normal physics, appearing to zigzag through space while changing direction without turning. On the Council flagship, the sensor operators grew increasingly confused. High Commander, we cannot predict its movement pattern, one reported. Our targeting systems cannot establish a firing solution. Impossible. Traz clicked his mandibles in agitation. All objects follow predictable paths through space. Not this one. The sensor operator insisted. It's changing vectors without using conventional thrust. There's no consistent pattern to analyze. Vexilius's expression darkened. A simple trick. Deploy the observer drones to gather more data. Small spherical drones launched from the Council ships, surrounding the Paradox in a perfect grid pattern. Each drone emitted scanning beams designed to build a complete model of the human ship. Aboard the Paradox, Lieutenant Wei monitored the drones. They're scanning us with standard spectrum analyzers. They're trying to map our movement patterns. Takahashi nodded. Time to show them why that won't work. Jackson, bring the quantum foam drive to 75% and execute pattern beta. Aye, Captain, Jackson replied from engineering. Quantum foam drive to 75%. The Paradox suddenly blurred, seeming to exist in multiple places simultaneously. The Council drone's scanning beams passed through empty space as the ship appeared to phase in and out of position. They're confused, Wei reported with satisfaction. Their scanning drones are recalibrating, trying to get a lock on us. In the Council flagship, alarms began to sound. High Commander, we've lost tracking, an operator reported. The human vessel is flickering. Flickering. Vexilius demanded. Explain. It appears to exist in multiple positions simultaneously, the operator said, confusion evident in his voice. Our scanners cannot determine its true location. Traz slammed a clawed hand on the console. This defies physics. It must be a sensor malfunction. Vexilius studied the display carefully. No, this is something else. Some kind of primitive dimensional manipulation. Deploy the linear cannon array. We will end this demonstration with a display of true power. 3 Council battleships moved into triangle formation, their energy systems beginning to charge for a devastating linear cannon shot aimed at the Paradox. Aboard the human ship, alarm sounded. Captain, they're deploying their linear cannon, reported Lieutenant Park. Takahashi remained calm. Just as we expected. Park, are the probability mirrors ready? Yes, Captain. All arrays online and tracking the energy buildup. Takahashi opened a channel to the Council ship. High Commander Vexilius, we detect your weapons charging. Is this part of the demonstration as well? Vexilius's face appeared on screen, his 6 eyes narrowed. Your vessel's unusual movement patterns are concerning, Captain. The Council must verify that this is not a prelude to hostile action. By firing on us? Takahashi asked, raising an eyebrow. The linear cannon will pass near your vessel, Vexilius stated, to demonstrate our precision. Unless, of course, you wish to end this charade and accept the Council's authority. Takahashi smiled calmly. We're happy to continue the demonstration. High Commander, please proceed. As the transmission ended, Takahashi turned to her crew. Battle stations. Jackson, push the quantum foam drive to 85%. Park, prepare the probability mirrors. The crew worked with practiced efficiency as the 3 council ships completed their firing alignment. Energy built between them, forming a web of light that connected the 3 vessels in a perfect triangle. They're targeting a point where they predict will be. Way reported, based on a standard movement algorithm. Which is why we won't be there, Takahashi replied. Rodriguez, execute pattern gamma on my mark. The linear cannon reached full charge, and a beam of pure energy shot forth, a perfect blue line cutting through space exactly where the paradox would have been if it followed normal physics. But at Takahashi's command, the paradox had shifted in a way the Council's targeting computers couldn't predict, the ship seeming to fold space around itself and reappearing instantly at a different location. The linear cannon's beam passed through empty space. On the Council flagship, stunned silence fell. It evaded, a tactical officer finally reported, without changing course or accelerating. Impossible. Traz's voice rose in anger. Recalibrate the cannons. Fire again. The Council ships began to reposition for another shot, but they moved with the same predictable precision as before. Takahashi watched them on the paradox's displays. Their greatest strength is their greatest weakness, she observed. They can't adapt their tactics. Rodriguez, take us on approach vector delta. Let's give them a real challenge. The paradox accelerated toward the Council formation, its path a series of impossible turns and sudden shifts. The Council ships tried to track it, but their targeting systems weren't designed for such unpredictable movement. They're firing again, Y warned as the linear cannon charged once more. This time, Takahashi didn't evade. Activate probability mirrors, she ordered. As the blue beam shot toward the paradox, strange, dish-like structures on the ship's hull glowed to life. When the linear cannon's energy struck, instead of vaporizing the ship, the energy was caught in the probability mirrors and then redirected. But unlike the perfect straight line of the Council weapon, the reflected energy scattered in dozens of unpredictable directions, like light through a shattered prism. The chaotic beams struck several Council ships, not with enough force to destroy them, but enough to disrupt their perfect formation. For the first time in recorded history, a Council battle formation had been broken. Vexilius stared at the tactical display in disbelief. This is not possible. Their technology is primitive. They cannot. High Commander, the communications officer interrupted. The human vessel is hailing us. Takahashi's face appeared on the Council flagship's main screen. High Commander Vexilius, I believe we've demonstrated that Earth has more to offer than you anticipated. Perhaps we should discuss terms as equals, rather than as conqueror and conquered. Vexilius's 6 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of extreme agitation. What manner of technology is this? It defies all known principles of Council science. That's exactly the point, Takahashi replied. You fire straight. We embrace chaos. You seek perfect order. We thrive on unpredictability. The question now is, can we find a middle ground? For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council faced a species that couldn't be conquered through superior firepower or mathematical precision. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had turned the Council's greatest strength into a weakness. 3 days later, Commander Reyes stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall, addressing the representatives of Earth's nations. The treaty has been signed, she announced. Earth will join the Galactic Council not as a Category 3 civilization under supervision, but as a full member with all rights and privileges. Applause erupted throughout the hall. Moreover, Reyes continued when the noise subsided. The Council has requested our assistance in developing what they call adaptive defensive systems. It seems our chaotic approach to technology has opened their eyes to new possibilities. Admiral Nakamura leaned toward her. And the VSS paradox. The first of many, Rise replied with a smile. We're already designing an entire fleet of ships based on the same principles. The Council may have sought to conquer us, but instead, they've given humanity its ticket to the stars. As the celebration continued around them, Rise gazed out the window at the night sky, where Council ships now orbited alongside Earth vessels in a pattern that was neither perfectly geometric nor completely random, a new configuration that represented the beginning of a partnership between order and chaos, between the straight line and the unpredictable curve. Humanity had proven that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the one that fires the straightest, but the one that embraces the beautiful unpredictability of the universe itself.